What up though, my yarn and tea crew, and welcome back to my channel. Here we mix the cozy world of crochet with the thrill of true crime. So whether you're here to learn a new stitch or a pattern from me, or catch some tea and you need a chilling story, I got you covered. Like, comment, and subscribe, and don't miss a beat. Okay, so today, y'all, we are going to be working on a bucket hat. This one specifically, I did use Big Twist Heather yarn in the color Sage, and I used a 5mm hook for the thumbnail. However, in the video today that I'm showing y'all, I'm going to be using a 4.5, and I'm using a different color yarn, but I kind of got really close to the color. So first things first, if you already know how to make granny squares, listen, you in luck. Make 5, fast forward, skip past all of this, and just get to the part where I'm actually connecting the hat. And if you don't know how to make a granny square, well, you are in luck, because I'm going to do the first one with you. So I like to start my granny squares with the magic ring. But if you don't know how to do a magic ring, then you want to chain 4 and you want to slip stitch at your chain 1 to close your circle. And then you can start with the chain 3, the same as I'm doing here. So if you do know how to do the magic ring, you want to start it chain 3. And then after that, I want you to go inside of there and add in 2 more double crochet. And then chain 2. And after you chain 2, you go right back into the same space, and you are going to do 3 more additional double crochets. Now, the key thing to remember is 3. That's how you should be able to keep yourself on track. Everything will be in sets of 3 today. 3 more double crochet, chain 2, and you're going to do that 2 more times until you get an even set of 4. When you make your last double crochet, you want to pull close, and you're going to leave that tail loose. We'll sew that in later. And you're going to go right on top of the first double crochet, and you're going to put your yarn through, and you will slip stitch, and you're going to close, and that'll be considered round 1 for your granny square. You are going to chain 3, and then you are going to go right back into the same chain space, and you are going to add in 2 more additional double crochets, and you are going to chain 1, and then you'll jump next into the next chain space. And round 2 is going to pretty much be corner spaces. So you're going to jump in with 3 double crochet the same way we did in round 1, and you are going to chain 2 after the 3rd double crochet. And then you'll go right back into the same space again, and then you'll add in 3 more additional double crochets. And after you add in your 3rd double crochet, you're going to want to chain 1 again. And you'll repeat this pattern all the way around up until you get to the other side, and then I'll meet you there. And then finishing off our last corner with our 3 double crochet, we're going to chain 2, and then we are going to connect again right on top of that very first double crochet. We'll slip stitch and we'll close, and that is the end of round 2. We'll chain 3 again so that we can start round 3. We will end at round 4. So we're going to go right back into the same chain space. Now, you can pull your square apart. You want to make sure that you see it. If it looks a little funny, sometimes you got to stretch it open just so you can see it. Make sure your corners are even, because you cannot cheat a granny square. So going back into that same corner, we already got our chain 3. So we're going to add in 2 more additional double crochets into this space, because our chain 3 represents our first double crochet. and then we are going to chain one. Now round three is a little different because we have a space from our last round from that chain one we made. So we're going to do 3 double crochets into this space, and we're going to do a chain one afterwards. This is not going to be a corner space. So anytime we have these spaces, we just do 3 double crochets. That's why I said our magic number is going to be 3 today. Back into our corner space again, we are going to go in with 3 double crochet, and then we will chain 2 again, and then we will add in 3 more additional double crochets into the very same space. And we still want to chain one after each time we do a set of 3 double crochets. I want to make sure that you don't forget that, because it'll make your square funny shaped. So going back into that next space, you're going to add in an additional 3 double crochets, and you're going to make sure that you chain one before and after. Chaining one again, you are going to be back at a corner space, going in with our corner, our 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around, and I will meet you at the end of round 3. Ending our round 3 with our last double crochet, chain 2, we're going to do the same thing, and we are going to slip stitch on top of that very first double crochet. Again, you want to make sure you stretch your square out. You want to make sure you count, and you want to make sure that everything is even. If you're confused on where you're at, you can put it up to your very first granny square, and you can kind of look and cheat a little bit, and then you can see that you have one more round to go. So starting our very fourth and final round, we're going to start again the same way with a chain 3. And we're going to go back into the same space with an additional 2 double crochets. And we are going to chain 1 again. And just like row 3, we are going to have those same spaces. And in our spaces that are not corner spaces, we are still going to do our 3 double crochets. And we are still going to chain 1 before and after to keep our pattern nice and neat. And so we have another space. So round 3, we had 1. Round 4, we had 2. And if you was continuing a granny square, let's say you was making a jacket or something like that, like just know that each round, every time, that those spaces are just going to keep going up more and more. And that's pretty much the beauty of a granny square. You can make it as big as you want. Our corner spaces are still going to be 3 double crochet, chain 2 in between, 3 double crochet, making sure that you chain 1 after. So we are just repeating the same pattern around again, making sure that we do our 3 double crochets and our spaces that are not corners. And I will meet you back at the end of round 4. And finishing up with our last double crochet, we chained 2, went right back on top of that very first double crochet the same way we did in round 3. But this time you are going to slip stitch, chain 1, and then you may cut off. So now that you have 1 granny square, you want to make 4 more, and 5 will give you a full hat. So you want to pull close. Again, we'll worry about those tails a little later. And you're going to take 2 granny squares, and you're going to place them right side up, with the back side being where the tail is hanging out. And you're going to place them on top of each other, and we are going to slip stitch down the sides. So our granny squares are exactly the same, so this makes it really, really easy because you're putting your hook through both loops. So You got a set of loops on one granny square. I'm going to go through two, and I start at the chain two space, and I put my hook in right before that first double crochet. So I'll go in that chain two stitch, and you want to make sure that you go through the chain two stitch on the opposite granny square as well, so that you start them at the same point, and you are going to connect them evenly down the sides. So how I connect my yarn is I make a, even size tail, and I just pull it through. And when I, whatever stitch that I pull it through when I start, I chain one, but I go back into the same stitch again, just so that I can single crochet on top of it as well. And then I single crochet down the sides, making sure that each stitch adds up. So when you start in a chain two space, the next stitch should be a double crochet, and you should end up with the 3 double crochets. And so you'll go ahead and you'll single crochet all the way down until you get to the end, and then I typically end at another chain two space again. And so start to finish, you go all the way down, making sure that whatever stitch you on that right side, you are on the left, and those chain spaces are going to be really tight. You're going to have to really work your hook in there. And you also want to make sure that you're working over that little tail that you see sticking up. That's where I connected my yarn. So I just work right over that, pulling that in. And that is how you'll hide that. So I will meet you at the end, and I will tell you what to do next. So when you come all the way down after single crocheting, you'll be able to open just like that, and you'll be able to end it with the chain one, pull that nice and tight, and then go ahead and cut off and pull that yarn through. And now we have 2 squares together. So we're going to grab another 2, and we're going to need to do the exact same thing for the next 2. And this is how you will start to build and connect your hat. So make sure that you are paying attention and get those stitches as even as possible. So now that we have 2 different pieces, now we have a set of 4 altogether. And so we cross over just like that. You do not single crochet across the top. If you do, you will make a wallet and not a hat, and it will not be my fault because you did it. So I'm telling you right now, you only do the sides after this point. Do the sides. Now, if you do the sides just like I told you, now you're going to have a box. You see, now we got just our square here because we only did the sides. So our last and final 5th granny square is going to go right side down, wrong side out. We've been doing everything inside out. That is key, because if you don't do it inside out, you will be so upset because you're going to have to pull it apart and you're going to have to start all over. So the same way that I went into the chain 2 space and I decided to start there, I start the top the same way. The only different is where I start on the actual part that is already stitched together. So I typically like go under the thicker stitch right in the center because it creates like a nice crisper corner to me. And it'll be a little tight. So as you can see, I kind of got to work my hook under both of those stitches there. But once you get in, everything is self-explanatory and to the point. The exact same way that those stitches lined up along the side is the exact same way that they're going to line up all the way around. So we're going to attach the yarn the same way, making sure that we pull it through. We're going to chain one and then go back in that same space and do a single crochet to make sure that you secure that. And then keep going down, making sure that you single crochet all the way around and make sure that they add up, going into those chained spaces in the corners, making sure that they are very nice and crisp. You want to make sure that you do that. And once you go all the way around, I will meet you back at the end and tell you what to do next. Okay, so now we have a hat, and our hat is closed. We've got crisp corners. Everything is good. We are going to finally flip it inside out. It does look crazy underneath. We still can fix that at the end. Feel free to pull whatever pieces are in your way out your way. Yay, clap for yourself. You have did a top part of the hat. And now we just have to do the brim. The brim is the easiest part to me because I feel like you can just fly a little faster. And it also doesn't even matter where you connect as long as you start somewhere. So you can start in a chain space or on top of a double crochet. And you attach the yarn the same way that I have been telling you this whole time. I just cut off this piece because it was a little raggedy and it was time to start with a nice little fresh piece. So we're going to attach the yarn in the same way, like kind of with our granny squares. We are going to chain 3 again just to start off our rows. So when we attach our yarn, I still do my single crochet before I do my chain 3 just to secure it. That's just my thing. And then you go into the next stitch with another double crochet. And you'll go into the next stitch with another double crochet. And you want to make sure that you work over the tail with the yarn that you just attached. That way you don't have to pull that in later. And that third double crochet stitch, I want you to do an increase and do 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And once you complete that increase, that is actually going to be your pattern. So if it's easier for you to remember numbers, say 112 to yourself. And if it's easier for you to remember in crochet terms, then it's going to be 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 increase of 2 into the same stitch. So you are going to do that all the way around, and that is going to be considered your round 1. And when you finish round 1, I am going to meet you back and I'm going to tell you what you can do for round 2. And again, you want to make sure you going into those chain spaces. You cannot skip over those or there'll be holes in the brim of your hat. And finishing up that last double crochet, you are going to look for that very first double crochet that you made when you started round 1, and you are going to go right on top of it and you are going to slip stitch, and that will be the end of round 1. To start round 2, you need to chain 3 and go back into the exact same stitch and add an additional double crochet inside of there. And then you want to do another double crochet. And then I am going to have you do an increase into the same stitch with 2 double crochets, and then another double crochet and another double crochet and an increase again. And so just like round 1, you are going to repeat this pattern all the way around. 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 increase, and that is going to be your row 2, and I will meet you at the end. When you get to the end of row 2, some people stop there because they like a shorter brim. It just depends on your style and your preference. I put it on my mannequin head to kind of give you an idea of how it would look. But if you're like me, you want a little extra, you want a little razzle dazzle, a little more flop to your hat, you probably are going to do an additional round. So if that is the case, you want to start round 3 with the chain 3. And if you're okay with 2, you can tie off and you are good to go. Starting with round 3, you are going to do another double crochet into the chain 3 space, and you're going to do another double crochet in the next space. After you get those double crochets done, you are going to do another increase into that third double crochet space. And for round 3, I want you to repeat that all the way around. And again, I will meet you at the end of round 3. Okay, finishing up round 3, we are going to end it the same way we started it, right on top of that first double crochet. We are going to slip stitch, and I chain 1 to secure, and I tie off. At this point, you can pretty much clean up the hat. Any outside pieces that are straggling like that one, you can pull it through. I kind of pull mine through, and I like to tie knots at the end, and sew in my middle spaces where all of my granny squares started. You want to sew those in, and then you can kind of tie off at the ends. You should see another string. I usually tie those in a knot, and I cut off. You want to make sure you just slip that last little tail back and forth the same way you saw me do. Some people snip off, some people burn it. I've seen it done a million ways, whatever you prefer. And you have officially made yourself a nice bucket hat. I want to thank you guys for spending time with me. That is it for today, my yarn and tea crew. I will be back, and my next upload is going to be a case that is going to blow your mind. I will see you there. Stay tuned.